there, I'm Deanne, and I'm 23. So let me tell you about this wild roller coaster ride with my mother-in-law, Rachel. Now, don't get me wrong, I love my husband, Derek, to the moon and back. He's my rock and my best friend. But let's just say, dealing with Rachel was like navigating a minefield sometimes. When Derek and I first got together, my relationship with his mom was pretty great. We would have those heart-to-heart talks, and she would even share her famous chocolate chip cookie recipe with me. I felt like I was part of the family, and it was all sunshine and rainbows. But then something changed. Wedding bells were ringing, and Derek and I were planning our big day. Now, I'm not a bridezilla by any means, but I did have certain ideas about how I wanted our wedding to be. It was my day, after all, no? Well, I guess my mother-in-law didn't get the memo. Enter Rachel, with her own set of ideas, and that, folks, is where the clash began. It was like every time we tried to discuss the wedding arrangements, Rachel would swoop in with her opinions, making it clear that she wanted this wedding to suit her tastes. It didn't matter that Derek and I had our own vision. Nope, it was all about what Rachel thought was best, and let me tell you, it was frustrating. Arguments would ensue, and those heart-to-heart talks became more like passive-aggressive showdowns. I mean, don't get me wrong, I respect her and all, but I wanted our wedding day to be a reflection of Derek and me, not Rachel's Pinterest board. Yet she seemed to think that her way was the only way. Deanne, I really think we should consider having the wedding at that beautiful garden venue I found. It's so elegant and classy. Rachel, I appreciate your input, but Derek and I wanted to be more rustic vibe. We found that amazing barn venue and it just speaks to us. Rustic? Honey, that's just a fancy word for old and run down. No, it's not. It's charming and romantic, and it's exactly what we want.
Hey, ladies, let's not get worked up about this. We can find a middle ground. Middle ground? Derek, this is my only son's wedding. We can't compromise on something as important as the venue.
And it's our wedding too, Rachel. We want something that reflects us as a couple, not just what you envision.
Okay, how about we consider a garden-themed barn venue? That could be a great compromise. I don't see why we should compromise on such a special day. I know what's best.
Rachel, you're not the only one who knows what's best. We have our own ideas and preferences.
Ladies, please, let's not let this ruin the moment. We're all excited for the wedding, right? Oh, absolutely, Derek. I'm just thrilled about this rustic barn idea.
You know what, Rachel? Maybe you should plan your own wedding if you're so passionate about it.
Come on, let's not resort to that. We're a family, and we can work on this together. Oh, now we're a family, huh?
Yes, Rachel, we are. And you need to respect our decisions as much as we respect yours.
Let's take a break and cool off. We'll revisit this when we're all in a better mindset. Fine. I'm done arguing with someone who doesn't appreciate my efforts.
And I'm done trying to please someone who only cares about their own vision.
Can we please find a way to compromise without tearing each other apart?
The tension was thick in the air, and I could feel the frustration boiling over. It seemed like every time Derek tried to step in and help, it just fueled the fire even more. The thing that really got under my skin was the passive-aggressive vibes she was starting to send my way. You know, those backhanded compliments and forced smiles that make you feel like you're walking on eggshells? It was like she was trying to make it clear that I was just an outsider trying to fit into her family, instead of her actually welcoming me in. And all for wedding paraphernalia? She's psycho, I swear! Even though she did her best to break me down, I wasn't about to let someone else dictate how my wedding day should be. Derek and I stood our ground, and slowly but surely, we managed to make our voices heard. It wasn't easy, let me tell you. It felt like a constant battle between what we wanted and what Rachel wanted. As the wedding day approached, tensions were high, but you know what? Derek and I pulled it off. Our wedding was a beautiful reflection of our love, and it felt amazing to have made it through all the challenges. And yeah,
Rachel had to swallow a bit of her pride, but in the end, she seemed genuinely happy for us. Or so I thought. As the festivities continued and the speeches from the bridal party brought tears and laughter, I couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions. The day had been beautiful so far, and I was surrounded by the love of friends and family. Little did I know that another storm was brewing, one that would threaten to overshadow the joyous occasion. Amid the celebration, Rachel approached me with an air of forced friendliness. My heart raced, hoping that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to put our differences aside and make amends. But as soon as we were alone, the facade dropped, and her tone turned icy. Finally, some alone time, Deanne. I hope you're enjoying my son's wedding. After all, it's clear you think you know better than me. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I wouldn't let her get under my skin. I know what you're trying to do, Rachel, and it's not going to work. But she wouldn't relent. She continued berating me, trying to provoke a reaction. I stood my ground, maintaining my composure as her words cut deep. Her attempts to push my buttons weren't working, and I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break down. Then she crossed the line I hadn't expected. This marriage of yours, Deanne, it won't last. Trust me, I've seen enough to know. I'll give it a year tops. I felt a surge of anger. I was ready to turn this wedding into a funeral. How dare she undermine my relationship, especially on this day? You have no right to make judgments about my marriage, Rachel. You leave me alone. Why are you even here? But she didn't back down. Instead, she relished in my fury, a smug smile playing on her lips. The tension was palpable, and I could sense the eyes of curious guests on us. I couldn't hold back anymore. You have always belittled me, criticized my choices, and tried to control everything. I won't stand for it anymore. My voice rose, and soon enough, the guests began to notice our escalating argument. My heart pounded in my chest as I yelled at Rachel, airing my complaints for all to hear. I didn't care about the attention. I was done being silent. Amid the chaos, Derek and Harold, my father-in-law, rushed over, concern etched on their faces. They managed to intervene just in time, positioning themselves between Rachel and me to prevent a physical confrontation. Deanne, calm down. You better get that hag away from me. Hag? Rachel, that's enough. Come on now. This is not the time or the place. Rachel huffed, seemingly satisfied that she had managed to provoke a reaction. She shot me one last smug look before walking away, leaving me fuming, but relieved that the confrontation had been diffused. As the night went on, I found solace in the love and support of my husband and our friends. Despite the tension, I refused to let Rachel's word dictate my course of my marriage. I knew that the love Derek and I shared was strong enough to weather any storm, even one as relentless as Rachel's disapproval. As the months rolled on, Derek and I proved that Rachel's prediction was far from accurate. Despite her hurtful words and attempts to ruin us, our relationship remained strong and steadfast. Our love for each other only grew with time, and we were determined to prove her wrong. The incident at the wedding had left a mark on both Rachel and me. Our communication became strained and less frequent, and it seemed that both Derek and his father Harold believed it was best to keep some distance between us. It was an unspoken agreement that allowed the tensions to settle, though I often wondered if it was going to be somewhat permanent. As our first wedding anniversary approached, I found myself feeling agitated. While I was excited to celebrate 1 year of marriage with Derek, there was a shadow looming over the occasion. The idea of facing Rachel again and having to be in the same room with her, the thought of being in her presence for more than an hour, was enough to bring back memories of the humiliation I felt on my wedding day. I tried to push those negative thoughts aside and focus on the positive aspects of our anniversary. Derek and I had come a long way in a year, building a life together and facing challenges as a team. We had learned to navigate through disagreements and cherish the moments of joy we shared. Despite the obstacles, our bond had only grown stronger, and that was something worth celebrating. Derek noticed my unease as the anniversary date drew nearer. He wrapped his arm around me one evening, sensing the weight on my shoulders. "Hey, what's bothering you?"
"I can't help but think about seeing your mom again. I don't want to ruin our anniversary by dredging up all those memories."
"I know, it's not easy, Deanne, but let's focus on us. Our anniversary is about our love and the journey we've been on together."
His words offered me a sense of comfort. I realized that he was right. Our anniversary was a celebration of us, our growth, and the love that had blossomed between us. I didn't want to let Rachel's negativity overshadow the happiness we deserved. The day of our anniversary party arrived, and the atmosphere was tense from the moment we set foot in Rachel's house. She was as cold and as rude as ever, her passive-aggressive behavior on full display. I tried my best to avoid her and focus on the celebration, reminding myself that the day was about Derek and me. But as the day progressed, I couldn't escape Rachel's presence. It was as though she was determined to make my every moment uncomfortable. At one point, she approached me with a familiar icy smile. "Rachel, I don't want to fight with you, okay? Please leave me alone. It's bad enough that we are holding the celebration here."
What can I say? I'm good at convincing my son and my husband of anything I want.
"Oh, yeah? Then why am I still here?"
Don't flatter yourself, sweetie. The day isn't over yet. Don't forget what I told you last year.
This thing won't last.
I mean it when I said it.
I clenched my fists, trying to keep my composure. I had come too far to let her negativity affect me, but her words still managed to stir up a storm of emotions within me. Unable to hold back any longer, I turned with her with a fiery determination. "You are a terrible mother, Rachel. You are willing to hurt your own son for the sake of your stupid pride. It's despicable." Rachel's eyes narrowed, and a wicked smile tugged at her lips.
"Oh, Deanne, you have no idea what I'm capable of."
Her words hung in the air, and before I knew it, we were engaged in a heated exchange of hateful words. She called me names that stung, trying to provoke a reaction from me. And despite my efforts to stand my ground, the weight of her words began to break through my defenses. I couldn't take it anymore. The emotions became too overwhelming, and I turned and fled to the nearest room, which happened to be the home office. I slammed the door behind me, tears streaming down my face. I sank into a chair, my heart racing with a mix of anger and sorrow. As I caught my breath, my eyes landed on the desk. There was a letter, its envelope addressed simply to Derek. My curiosity got the better of me, and I reached for the letter, my hands trembling as I tore it open. I began to read its contents, my shock growing with each word. The letter was a confession from Rachel herself. The contents of the letter in my hand were a revelation that left me stunned. Rachel had confessed that Derek was not Harold's child, and the evidence supporting her claim was right there in the envelope. Alongside the confession was a DNA test report bearing Derek's name and another name I didn't recognize. Nikolai. My mind raced as I pieced together the shocking truth. It turned out that this man, Nikolai, was Derek's biological father. The DNA test had shown a 99% match between them, confirming a connection I had never known existed. My heart pounded as I absorbed the weight of this new information. The revelation was so unexpected, so utterly unbelievable. I felt as though the ground beneath me was shifting, leaving me unsteady and unsure. But as I read and reread the confession, a sense of clarity began to emerge. The truth was a powerful weapon, and I knew that armed with this knowledge, I could change the dynamics that had been tearing our family apart. With determination burning in my chest, I burst out of the room, clutching the letter in my trembling hands. The noise of the celebration greeted me as I re-entered the festivities. My heart raced, but I knew what I needed to do. I stepped into the center of the room, my voice steady as I cleared my throat to get everyone's attention. The chattering voices hushed, and all eyes turned to me as I stood there, holding that life-altering letter. I have an important announcement to make. The room fell silent, the anticipation palpable. I took a deep breath, gathered my strength to share the shocking revelation that had been hidden for so many years. Derek, I found something today that changed everything. Derek's eyes met mine, confusion and curiosity mingling in his gaze. I knew that what I was about to say would change his perception of reality forever. But it was time to expose the truth that Rachel had hidden for so long. I found a letter, a confession from your mother. She admits that you're not Harold's biological son. Gasps went through the room as my words hung in the air. A heavy silence descended upon us all. I could see the shock and disbelief on Derek's face, the weight of the revelation sinking in. I met Rachel's gaze and she was shooting daggers at me with her eyes, but I didn't care. I was glad that I was finally shutting her up for once and for all. I don't know what she's talking about. She's making all of this up. Oh? So this isn't your handwriting then, and this sheet of paper that has the real name of Derek's father isn't real?
Give it here, you stupid wench. I don't even know what to say. Mom, is this true? Don't listen to a thing she says. Look at what she's doing. She's embarrassing us in front of everybody. Is it true? Harold, please, let's talk about this somewhere private. Rachel, I swear to God.
This test shows that Derek shares a 99% DNA match with someone named Nikolai. The room erupted into a mix of gasps, whispers, and stunned expressions. The truth was out, and there was no going back now. Rachel's web of deceit had been unraveled, exposing a reality that none of us could have anticipated. Derek's face was a mix of emotions, shock, confusion, and of course anger. His gaze shifted from the letter to me, seeking the validation that this wasn't some cruel prank or an elaborate hoax. During the stunned silence that followed my announcement, Harold's voice cut through the tension like a knife.
I'm glad the truth finally came to light. I'm glad I know the truth now. I'm not gonna lie, I had my suspicions through the years, but I always thought I was being stupid. But now I see I was right all along.
Derek's gaze shifted between the letter, the DNA report, and his mother. His expression was a whirlwind of emotions, confusion, betrayal, and need to understand. After a moment of deep contemplation, he finally spoke up, his voice laced with incredulity.
Why? Why did you address the letter to me? Why not confront me properly?
Rachel's eyes were red and puffy from crying, her facade of strength crumbling in the face of the truth. She looked at Derek, her gaze filled with remorse and shame.
I was scared. I thought your father would leave me if he found out the truth, but the guilt was eating me alive. What sort of mother would I be if I didn't at least tell you? I'm so sorry, Derek.
The weight of her confession hung heavily in the air. The room seemed to hold its breath as we all processed the depth of her fears. In that letter, the one that she revealed the shocking truth, Rachel had poured out her guilt and depression. She had confessed how the secret was eating her alive, how she felt trapped between her love for her husband and her fear of losing him. And then there was her words about wanting to keep the secret between her and Derek, as if her guilt had pushed her to the point of needing to confess to at least one of them. It was a desperate plea for relief from a burden she could no longer bear. Harold's face was a mixture of sadness and resignation.
You were right to think I would leave you, because that's exactly what I'm going to do.
As his words hung in the air, Rachel's shoulders slumped, and she sank to the floor, her tears flowing freely now. She begged for forgiveness, her voice crackling as she pleaded for a chance to make things right. But Harold remained silent, his gaze impassive as he turned and walked out of the room, leaving behind Rachel, who was getting dirty looks from all around the room.
Her gaze landed on me and I smirked at her, finally feeling good after a year of feeling frustrated with her and her antics. Derek left the room shortly after, also ignoring his mother's pleas when she asked him to listen to her. People slowly left the room, expressing their disappointment and making Rachel cry even harder. After the room was empty, she looked up at me through her tear-filled eyes. Her face was a mask of desperation, a plea for help that clashed with the anger that still lingered between us. "Deanne, please. I need you to help me. Everyone has turned against me." I met her gaze, the emotions swirling within me, a chaotic mix of empathy, anger, and frustration. "Rachel, you deserve much worse than this." The year of pent-up resentment and mistreatment had finally boiled over, and I was done trying to appease her. Her desperation quickly transformed into rage, and she lashed out at me with venom in her words. "This is your fault, you know. You're the one who exposed my secret, who ruined everything." I met her fury with a steely gaze, refusing to back down. Rachel, you should be thanking me. At least now you don't have to carry that guilt and lie anymore. Karma's a B word, and you better hope and pray that Harold and Derek forgive you, or you'll have no one, because I sure as hell won't help you." But as the next day dawned, it became painfully clear that Harold's mind hadn't changed, which wasn't too surprising, to be honest. He didn't waver his decision, and he handed Rachel divorce papers. The house that once stood as a symbol of their family was now an empty shell of memories, a physical manifestation of the shattered trust and broken bonds. Rachel was forced to leave the life she had built with Harold, her own actions having irreparably torn it apart. Rachel had chosen to hide the truth for so long, and now she was facing the consequences of her decisions. As the day turned into weeks, the neighborhood buzzed with the scandal that had unfolded. Some whispered in sympathy for Rachel, while others shook their heads in judgment. But regardless of the opinions swirling around us, the truth remained. Secrets had a way of unraveling even the most carefully constructed facades. Derek and Harold were still healing from the whole mess, obviously, but I was glad I put Rachel in her place and also informed Harold and Derek of the truth they deserved to hear. Rachel's now a pariah, especially within the family, and I don't feel bad one bit.